Talk to you today about getting triggered. Do you get triggered by a toxic person? Like, is he triggering you in the moment of something that's happening in the relationship that is making you oftentimes spiral out or react? You see, when we're talking with a narcissist, typically what's happening is he's trying to trigger or get a response from you. When we start breaking this down, I want you to just think and imagine the idea of you're trying to navigate through life while he's installing these landmines in front of you, these different things that are going to make you react or respond in a way that you don't want to respond, but in a way that keeps happening over and over and over again. The things that keep pushing your buttons, the keeps things that keep making you kind of like, hey, what is going on? You see, a narcissist will continue to trigger you to a place where you will continue to act out and respond in a way that you're like, this isn't even who I want to be. This isn't even how I want to show up. You see, it's easy for a narcissist to actually poke you and prod you to get you to the place where you respond like you're crazy. And the nurse is like, see, you're the crazy one. Like, here I am, I'm sitting here, I'm reading a book. Here I am reading a book, and you're the one yelling and being crazy. I want you to imagine you're walking through life and he's putting these landmines in your life. Like, he's intentionally setting these up in front of you, bringing you to the place of getting ready to lash out. Like, he's giving you the silent treatment and expecting you to know what's the problem. He's interacting with you in a certain way that's just slowly prodding and poking at you, waiting for you to lash out, waiting for you to react in a way that you don't actually want to act. And sometimes you start to make yourself doubt this. You start to question. You're like, I don't even know. Like, why do I even do this? Why do I even yell at him? Like, there's not a reason. He hasn't changed. Nothing's actually different. Like, why do I actually find myself screaming at this person? Because I'm so frustrated because he actually won't talk to me, because he won't actually tell me what's going on. He won't actually share what's actually happening. Then you find yourself oftentimes spiraling out and thinking, maybe I'm the toxic one. How many of you have the thought go through your mind inside a middle of you getting upset, even raging out against the person who has been consistently abusing you? How many of you thought, maybe I'm the toxic one? How many of you have actually thought that? Because we see this where people get to a place where you have been triggered over and over and over again. And the next day, it's like, what is he going to say just to be able to push you a little bit more? What is he going to poke and prod at you to be able to hurt your self esteem, to be able to pull you down just a little bit more? And you start to wonder if you're the toxic one, and maybe he's right. Maybe it's all you. Now, oftentimes you start to spiral out in your mindset and your thought process, and the person that you once was, your person that you once were, starts to disappear. The confidence that you used to have in yourself and making decisions in your life, at the grocery store, and running your business, all of these things start to slowly fade away, and you become a shell of the person that you used to be. You become the person that you used to know, feeling like life seems to be empty. Like, you're walking through life looking for the happiness, looking for the joy, looking for like the good times, the fun person that you actually used to be, and you haven't been able to find it. You haven't been able to find it anymore. Is this you? I want you to take a moment and just pause and understand that you haven't had some of the tools and some of the systems to actually be free. Like, you've been putting yourself in this crazy making thought process and idea, and you've been stuck for such a long period of time. You're not sure how to actually be free. You've turned to a certain aspect and you've been like, hey, maybe he'll change. Maybe he'll get better. You've sold yourself a lie that he's put on you, thinking that it's going to get better, and it's never gotten any better. I want you to take a moment and just pause to give yourself some grace. Some of you didn't know. You didn't have a clue. And you're looking back on the past years, the past relationship, whatever it might be. You're looking back on it and you're beating yourself up every single day because of how it affected you, because of how it affected the kids, because of how it affected your job, because of all the different things that it caused, that it broke down, that it affected. And you're looking at all these things, you start to just mentally beat yourself up. You start to do the narcissist job for you, where you're beating yourself up over and over and over again, thinking, how stupid was I for not catching this? Why didn't I realize that he was the abuser? It wasn't me. When you start to be like, why did I stay so long? All these thoughts go through. And it's because of those slow, methodical things that he's doing to trigger you and to put you in a place of reaction. But I want you to pause for a moment and you just give yourself some grace. Thinking like, hey, you didn't know. Think of it this way. When you were 4 years old, you didn't understand algebra. Maybe you still don't. I don't, because it's not that great. Okay. But maybe you didn't understand higher level math, right? You don't look at yourself now and be like, man, when I was 4 years old, I was so stupid because I didn't understand higher level math, right? You don't do that. Why? Because you didn't have the knowledge, you didn't have the tools, you didn't have the understanding to actually bring yourself to that place and be like, oh, this is what's going on. The same thing has been happening inside the toxic narcissistic relationship that you've been a part of. You've been brought through all of this and you haven't seen it because you didn't know what you were dealing with. You didn't sign up and walk up to the marriage altar and be like, hey, let's sign on the dotted line to abuse, to gaslight, to love bomb, and to destroy my life. Like that wasn't part of the contract that you signed. So what I need you to understand is for a moment, you need to pause and give yourself some grace and understand you did not have the tools to actually be free from the toxicity that you're currently stuck in. You didn't know. Can you just pause for a moment and give yourself some grace? Understanding that you didn't know to start off with. But now we run into another piece because you've been watching my content, you've been watching this live for a couple minutes here, and now you've already started to build an awareness based on the triggers that he's put into your life to produce this reaction, to produce a reactive abuse idea, to produce this place where you're spinning out and he's seeming normal, but he's the one that keeps poking and prodding and hurting you. Now you're starting to get this piece of awareness, of understanding who you are, understanding what's actually going on. You start to actually see, wait a second, the reality I've been living in, the version of what I've seen for such a long period of time might not actually be true. I might not actually be the bad person. I might not actually be the abuser. He's the one that's been doing this. He's been gaslighting. He's been love bombing. He's been cheating on me. All of these things have been going on, but I've been made to feel like it's my fault. We just talked about giving yourself grace for when you think that. The second thing you need to think through is, now that you have the awareness, what are you going to do? My channel is great for getting awareness out there. But honestly, there's a piece of my content that sucks in actually calling people to do something, to take action. You've heard the phrase like knowledge is power. And the thing is, knowledge without action doesn't do shit. Some of you have been stuck in the weeds and in the mud and the toxic relationship, and you're still not sure how to get out. You scrolled through my videos, you scrolled through Lee's, you scrolled through Dr. Romney's, Les Carter's. You've gone through all the different people's stuff, and you're still stuck in it. And you're like, well, if I learn one more video, then this will make it happen. If I figure out one more concept, this will make it happen. If I figure out one more thing of why he did what he did, then it'll make sense. Guess what? It won't. Until you actually decide, make a choice to invest in you and make the step forward in your growth, your healing, your development, nothing will change. The narcissist will continue to use and abuse you for the longest period of time until you make a choice. But that choice requires action. It requires you to actually do something. I'm not talking about getting off this and going no contact. You're probably not at that place right now. I'm not talking about going out and be like, hey, I'm divorcing today. You're probably not at that place right now. If you're watching some of this video or some of this content, you're like, hey, I'm still just in the middle of it, in the muck of it, in the weeds, struggling with the triggers because he says this thing and it makes me spiral out. And then I feel like I'm the crazy one. I want you to understand that that's normal. Normal, I don't mean to normalize it in like, oh, that's good or that's not that big of a deal. I'm saying it's normal for you to react in a negative way based on what he's put you through. Based on the abuse that you've been put under, it's normal for you to actually respond that way. But we have to be able to help you actually work through that. To be able to break down some of the things that have been happening, to help you actually work through the triggers, help you work through that so you can actually be free. If we don't work through the triggers, you will stay stuck in a toxic relationship. You will stay trauma bonded to this person. You will stay addicted and obsessed with the thoughts about this person. What is he doing now? Where is he with? I have to be able to control the timeline so I make sure he doesn't go out and cheat on me. There will be so many things that will go through your head and you will stay stuck. So I need you to understand it comes down to a moment of you making a decision of taking action. What is that decision going to be for you today? If you're ready to actually move forward on Instagram, send me a DM that says break free. Send me a DM. Just shoot a DM that says break free, and I'll reach out to you personally so we can work through this. If you're like, hey, I want to start working with you, I want to start moving forward in the healing process, taking a look at the challenges, the things that we've put together to break people out of this, I want you to go to rawmotivations.com. It's a website that we have to be able to help guide people moving forward in their healing process. You can access some of the challenges there. You can read the testimonials. You can see some of the videos from other people that have said, hey, this has actually broken me free because we taught people how to deal with the triggers. We've taught people how to be able to work through the triggers that they're struggling with on a day-to-day basis. So like the trigger that makes you spiral out and all of a sudden you find yourself yelling at the kids or wanting to kick the dog. Now you actually have a tool to be able to change that so that you no longer are at the mercy and control of the toxic person in your life who's putting these landmines in your life, waiting for you to step on them and have you explode. In reality, that's not who you are. So I'd love to be able to help you. I'd love to be able to reach out. Go to rawmotivations.com. There we've got several options of you moving forward in some of the challenges, in some of the places that we offer of helping you leave and break free from toxicity. But it all comes down to a choice of you. You choosing you. That's it. How do I get him to respect my boundaries and stop showing up at my house? You're probably going to file a restraining order and call the cops to get him thrown in jail. Is you need to understand after you've been in the relationship or if you've already set these boundaries and he's not respecting them, there's nothing you can do that's going to make him respect them. Instead, you have to enforce consequences on that person. You're going to keep stalking me. You're going to keep showing up to my house unannounced. You're going to keep showing up when you're not allowed to. Okay, restraining order. Now we're filing. Now we're actually getting you thrown in jail. You're like, that seems so harsh. Yeah, because this person doesn't care about you at all. And so until you actually start to stand up for you, they will keep doing it over and over and over again. Make the choice for you to actually be free. Otherwise, you will stay stuck for a long period of time. Why is it so important to go no contact versus ignoring? I'd like to hear your opinion. No contact is essential for you to have a buffer so you can actually heal. Think of it this way. If you just ignore the narcissist, you are in a pond and you're at one end of the pond and inside the pond has all this shit, has all this sludge that's been put into it. And you're at the other end of the pond and you have this net and you're picking up all the sludge and you're tossing out of the pond, which is great because the area of the pond that you're in like looks clean. But at the other end of the pond, there is this pipe that is coming with sewage and a bunch of stuff, and it just keeps pouring into that pond every single day. But you're on the other side cleaning, and your little section of the pond is clean. You need to understand when you get to a place where you just ignore the narcissist, but you don't actually go no contact, you're still letting toxic stuff into your life. You're still keeping the door open for him to walk back in. You're still keeping the door open for him to say things. So for a narcissist, like you ignoring is still a piece of power and control. Like, how does that even make sense? Because the narcissist knows if he's not blocked, he knows it is only one text away from you breaking down and answering. That one time when you're struggling over the holidays and you're like sad because you don't have him in your life, not even because you want him, but because you're missing someone to actually be able to share the holiday together, that one of his texts is going to get through and you'll respond. That's all it takes. It's all it takes. And then you're back in the toxic relationship. You're moved into his house. You're moved across the country, away from support from friends and family. You're in it even worse. And you're wondering, how did I even get here? Because when you leave the door open just a crack, the narcissist will typically walk through. Now, if you're at the place and you're like, hey, I don't even think I can go no contact, that's okay. Dive into the challenges. The clarity challenge is one of the ones that we focus on breaking the trauma bond, because we're not like, if I just tell you to go no contact, it's not good enough. You have to actually want it, but you have to actually walk through the process of changing your mindset. Otherwise, you'll be like, that's too mean. It's not. But until we help you see that, you won't actually get free. Seen several people talk about like children involved on a couple different platforms. It's like people are putting in comments. A couple things really quick. One aspect is if children are involved and you're splitting up, if you're divorcing, if you're separating, there's all the legal custody stuff like that. When that happens, and if there's a co-parenting and a communication agreement, it needs to be into all the custody paperwork, all the separation paperwork, and you need to have like third-party stuff, third-party app, third-party communication, third-party drop-offs, everything you can do so that you're completely no contact, even if the kids have to swap back and forth. That's the best case scenario, because you want to help limit that. And the second thing that people normally see, and I saw a comment earlier of like, hey, like all of this stuff going on with kids, like how do I help my kids? I need you to understand first and foremost, none of you can help your kids if you are trying to do so out of your own shit. Now, what I mean by that is not that you can't support the kids, not that you can't help them, but you can't pour from an empty glass. And many people are on here being like, I want to help my kids because they're hurting. Then help your kids. But understand, you can only do so much if you're not investing into you. There's countless people that are like, I'm trauma bonded, but I need to help my kids. Be like, no, you need to get untrauma bonded or else you will never be able to help your kids. Because the example that they see will be a broken person who is not willing to actually stand up for themselves, find their confidence, find their self-esteem, and move forward in a healthy way. And they will perpetuate the same cycle in their next relationship. If you don't hear anything else, I want you to hear this when we're talking about kids. Out of your own healing comes your kids' redemption. Meaning that they don't get fixed by you just throwing them at a therapist. They don't get fixed by you just sitting and listening to their feelings. Those things help, absolutely. But they get fixed by being able to look at you, a beacon of light, actually guiding them out of the darkness, because you know how to handle your own shit. You know how to deal with the triggers. You know how to break the trauma bond. And when they're struggling, they look at you for support because they actually see that you've got it together, because you've had to walk through the darkness. You've had to walk through all of the challenging times. You've had to walk through the crazy making that he's brought you through, and you walked out the other side. And so when the kids look at that, they're like, hey, I want to be like that. How did you do this? And you have a unique opportunity to help lead your kids moving forward. But it all comes down to a decision of you to actually invest in you. Two things as we wrap up. If you're interested, I'm running on a couple different platforms right now. Instagram, if you're interested in help, I want you to shoot me a DM after this. Just say break free. I'll know what you mean. We'll start a conversation, go back and forth, see where you're at and how we can help. Everybody else, if you're at the place where you're like, hey, I just want to learn, I want to figure out where I'm at. What am I doing? What do I need to do next? Go to escapetoxicity.com. The link is in all the bios. Escapetoxicity.com. It's a 7-day challenge for $7 just to start you down the process of understanding what this actually is. The triggers we talk about those, and the reactive abuse. Third thing I'll say is if you're at the place where you're like, hey, I don't really care. Whatever it takes, I'm ready to jump in. Then I want you to go to rawmotivations.com. We have a link there for the Clarity Challenge. The Clarity Challenge is the single-handed thing that we have seen hundreds go through to absolutely break and eradicate the trauma bond. We give you the tool that I use every single day to work through the triggers, to work through with you're angry, when you're sad, when you're guilty, when you're happy, working through the triggers in life so that you can actually rise up and understand who you are. Be an empowered woman that stands in confidence and says, hey, I know who I am. I know the direction I'm going. I know the boundaries that I have in my life that are keeping me on the road that I actually want to go. So if I can be any help, Instagram, shoot me a DM that says break free. Otherwise, go to rawmotivations.com. We'd love to be able to help you move forward in your healing process, in your growth. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, it's the same place, rawmotivations.com. Would love to be able to help you move forward in that healing process. Y'all have a blessed and a wonderful day. Reach out for help.